What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about the early access for The War Within. What should you do to profit off of it? Is it worth it? I mean, I can't tell you that. I don't know how much you value your money. But does it give an advantage? For profession specifically, we're not caring about anything else. Well, the short answer is yes, it's an advantage. In my opinion, it's pretty clear that it has an advantage. So if we're looking at what's coming, Ice Events has a guide for what's coming. Now, to be fair, on professions specifically, Blizzard has not said much. They've just not said anything really. But based on Mr. GM's video, what we're getting, we'll at least be able to learn professions, gather materials, which means you can get started. Most likely, profession weeklies will not be available. You won't be able to get sparks for crafted gear. There's anything that's locked behind weekly quests or world events won't be available. I would be surprised if patron work orders are in to give you sort of weekly knowledge gains. I don't expect those to be in. But there's still going to be a lot of stuff you can do. Obviously, you can level to max on your main, which is certainly good. But there's also some other things you can do. Because time isn't an infinite resource for most of us, certainly not for me. So if you're anything like me and don't actually play games for a living, then having some extra days to get started is going to be an advantage over anyone who won't. I mean, even 2 hours extra per day, that's a lot of hours in the game that you can spend unlocking recipes and stuff. So one thing you can do is doing the profession shuffle, where you're like leveling a profession, doing all of the first crafts for artisan acuity, going to the next one. You will have more time to do that before raids open, before the season begins, and people really start buying stuff, which is going to be an advantage, obviously. You can also collect the profession treasures on all of your alts, all of your crafters. Just get them to the War Within zones, get around, and grab all of those, to have all of the knowledge ready for when like the game really starts. Because as far as demand goes, it's not really going to start until the season starts. But there is still a lot of prep work you can do, and there are going to be some markets that go live essentially from day one, assuming you can get stuff like Dark Moon cards, which might be fishable. Day one, they're going to be doing extremely well. People are going to want to be getting their epic trinkets as soon as possible. Now, if you do all of the profession knowledge gains on a character, all of the one-time gains, and do a reasonable amount of first craft shuffling with other professions, then you'll probably be able to get close to max quality before the season begins on the recipes that only require essentially 70 knowledge to get to max, which are some professions, some recipes you can get to max with not that high of an investment in terms of profession knowledge. And you should be able to get those with the weekly gains before the season begins, which is, if you want to be competitive in those when the sparks unlock, for instance, for gear crafting, then you need to do that. You need to have that done. And obviously, the more alts you can get through before the season starts, in terms of collecting all the treasures, doing first craft, extra first crafts from other professions, that's every hour is a bit of advantage, essentially. Now, if you're someone who just enjoys farming, I'm not, but if you are, then just gathering, just spending a lot of the early access period gathering, getting your gathering profession to a point where you can get quality 3 materials, going to be huge, because quality 3 materials are going to be extremely important for getting guaranteed max quality crafts, sort of bypassing the entire concentration system, which is where we will all be eventually in terms of crafting. There's one other advantage that's profession specific for some professions, in particularly alchemy, but this is a big question mark. Like, are we getting profession cooldowns? Because alchemy relies on unlocking recipes through experimentation, which has sort of time caps. Like, you have meticulous experimentation, which is on a daily cooldown. Then you have stuff like transmutes, which are on a cooldown. So the sooner you can unlock recipes to start accumulating charges, the better off you are. So like you want to do that day one if you have any alchemists that if you're trying to do like Blasphemite, Alchemist alts for transmute, stuff like that. Need to get those started day one. You need to get going so that they start accumulating charges. There's some other recipes like that, but not many. We know Inscription has some daily cooldown stuff. But yeah, the more time, the more prepared you are during the early access period, where it's sort of limited what you can do. So you can cap out a character, and then you will have time to cap out another character and another one. In terms of the one-time knowledge gains and artisan security gains, and doing that is just going to be a significant advantage. Now, it won't be insurmountable. Like, obviously, you can catch out pretty quickly on a single character, but if you're looking at having an alt army with many crafters, then people who spend the early access time on their alt armies getting the more characters ready will essentially just have a lot more markets available to them by the time the season rolls around and the ban rolls in, which is obviously a significant advantage, but they're not going to get something that you can't get otherwise. So yeah, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of early access gated behind high paying stuff. I mean, essentially the release date is on Tuesday. I don't think it works the way Blizzard wants it to work. Well, our claims they want it to work. What they actually want it to work is to drive sales of the highest paid edition, and that it's probably worked really well for that. So I would not be surprised if we see this again for the next expansion. I think this is way too profitable for Blizzard not to do, sadly. So for us, it's time to figure out, like, is it worth it? That's up to you to decide, but it is going to give you an advantage.